Saperode took a few sharp metal fragments from a statue destroyed in the blast and fashioned several skewers for meat, sticking them into the stakes that he set over the dry wood he'd set on fire with micro-torch. While the meat cooked, Saperode took a pair of round, crinkled-up balls from a pocket and pressed them each with a thumb to spring open two membrane faker plates that he set on an empty weapons container. Removing a couple of packages of dehydrated beans from a jacket pocket and tearing them open, he placed one upon each faker plate before adding vital water from a flask. Laura walked over and sat down on a crushed electro float transporter with Saperode. She said, "Let's talk about what happened here, Saperode. I'm a forensic accountant for the office, or was initially, before moving into specialized training of a related field, and think it would be useful to compare ideas with you concerning the exfiltrated or destroyed intellectual capital that has more value than I would care to put a price on." "Yeah, sure. Zim and I found a skein of skirmish casualties of your bank ops down the Livid River. I would guess bank ops investigating unusual scatting presence signs were on scene and terminated by an opposition element that moved swiftly to fully engage the comparatively limited and ineffective bank ops security people stationed here. Bank ops downriver encountered the lead element of a superior force and were directly rolled up by the opposition, who took the intellectual capital from Mark Muster Inn, exfiltrating to points unknown. How is that, Laura?" "Good enough, Saperode, and logical. The dwindled worlds have experienced loss of intellectual properties that emerged in a variety of forms elsewhere and elsewhere about the infinite metaverse. Reasonably enough, we should like to slow down or stop thefts and sabotage." Zimmer moved in to look at the steaks that were becoming well-done pieces, sizzling fat and dripping juice into the fire. Saperode moved his skewer off to let a steak cool for Zimmer. He asked Laura, "How do you like yours, Laura?" "Medium rare would be fine, Saperode." "So it is, Laura," he said, handing her the skewer with a large chunk of very tender dumb beast meat slaughtered with compassionate butchering. She took it and with a small bottle from an ammo pouch slathered the meat with hot sauce. Laura said, "There are two basic forms of government for human worlds these days, Saperode. Those that seek to concentrate wealth in a tiny minority and make slave laborers and happy work minions of everyone else, and those that prefer free enterprise and democracy with limits to capital acquisition, since plutocracy threatens the integrity of elections and free and enterprise. The dwindled worlds, as you may be aware, prefer free enterprise, with capital concentration defense caps as a better way to develop human potential than imperialists swollen with enslaving peon subjects. Corporatism and even communism share imperial political goals in the sense that power is concentrated and the majority are repressed and conditioned by the minority holding the reins of wealth and power. We suspect that the theft of intellectual properties from the Sendufax vault was directed by our opposition forces and affiliates, and to become the number of minions working to make slaves of themselves and to become subjects of imperial forces isn't fundamentally without limit. Evidently, a modicum of intellect and creative thought is needed for comprehending the nature of imperial corporate communist political power concentration. Too many of the masses have blind loyalty to economic powers working to enslave them." Saperode had taken his own skewer of dumb beast meat, added hot sauce from a rucksack, and took a large bite. "This steak is tasty," he said. "Yes, it is very agreeable," Laura replied, taking another bite after adding a dash of her custom hot sauce. "In my opinion," Saperode said, continuing on Laura's idea, "elites concentrating wealth and power would seek to objectively transform human subjects into quantitative mass for simpler processing and utilization. Mass social conditioning and identity would be cloned into archetypes with psychological conditioning, individual identity and differentiation of thought restricted and eliminated whenever possible, reducing human societies to quantities of material existence, input, output, and throughput vectors most useful for further concentration of wealth and power to elites. The reciprocal of that is human herd contentedness in becoming full subject minions of the elites. It is an inversion of Thomas Hobbes' Leviathan, where the king actualizes as the will of the people fully actualize as subjects of elites." "That is a grim way to put it, Saperode, though accurate enough. A derivative would be the theft of intellectual properties from independent worlds and individuals within a full-spectrum war on objectively independent nonconformists resisting concentrated power, individual free enterprise and egalitarian democratic republican planets, and even unorthodox ideas are implicit threats to the rule of the powerful ignorant plutocrats and their entertaining front persons." Zvim watched the pair of humans for signs of beast poisoning, entrapment, and satisfied that the meat was clean of poison traps, went to the skewer and took his piece of beefsteak with his teeth. Sapirod said, "When you finish off the meat, Zvimmer, why don't you look around the settlement for anything that would help us discover who and where the traps are and when?" Zvim, with his stake, trotted off into the red darkness of Golden Plum.